In this lesson, we're going to customize theme files and see how these changes impact our site. I want to reiterate that we are now editing a contributed theme. This is not the best practice. In the event of a security update, we would overwrite our changes. So I am simply demonstrating this here to show quickly how the theme works. In order to edit the theme files, we're going to head over to our site directory and take a look at the code. So here I have a Finder window open, and I'm in the Drupal site directory, and I'm in the themes directory where all of the contributed themes that I've downloaded will be placed. At this point, the only contributed themes we have in here are Insha and Space. On your site, you're likely to only have either one contributed theme that you're using in its default form, or you may have a base theme and then a sub-theme that you've created, or you may have a custom theme that you've entirely built from scratch. The theme that we're working with right now is Insha, and what I want to do is edit the CSS on this theme in order to make some design changes to the site. So I'm going to navigate into the Insha directory, and then I'm going to navigate into the CSS directory. You'll notice that the style sheets are broken out into 3 different categories, and the one that we're interested in is the layout style sheet. We're not changing any of the responsive behavior or any of the font components, but we are changing aspects of the layout. Let's take a quick look at the site again and take stock of what we might want to change. At this point, everything looks pretty good on this particular theme, but maybe I find that this color of the font, which is a dark gray, maybe I'm not happy with the level of contrast on that, and I would like to change that to black. Perhaps also I'm finding the gray background in the side areas where the actual content of the site is not spilling. Perhaps I find that gray to be a little bit dull and I'd like to use something brighter. So I'm going to head back over to the Finder window here in order to see the site directory. And I'm going to find this layout.css file. Now this is pure CSS. This is not Sass. So I can edit this CSS file using old school CSS. I'm going to double click on it and it's going to launch in a text editor for me. And now I can see the CSS that was created with the default theme. The 2 things that I'm going to change here are the color of the text, which I'm going to change to black, and then I'm going to change the background color. I mentioned that the gray, perhaps for this particular site, might be a little bit dull, so instead we're going to use something vibrant. I'll use the color picker here and cheat. Let's go with something in the pink spectrum. That'll be nice and vibrant. Might be a little bit glaring, but it'll be obvious. And we're going to save that. Now we're going to go back to our site and reload and see the changes. And nothing changed. Now the reason why nothing changed is because caching is enabled by default in Drupal 8. Caching enables your site to be very performant and speedy. Caching creates versions of your pages on your Drupal site that are stored as single instances that don't require going back to the database and making another query in order to display fresh content on the site. Because the database query is bypassed, the performance of the site is much better. Things are displayed much more quickly. When we're developing a site, especially when we're working on the theme layer, it might behoove us to turn caching off. You should always have caching running on your production site because that's the site that users are going to access, and you want that to be very performant. But in this case, we're developing the site and it's on our local machine, and we don't really need it to be fast. We need to see the work that we're doing. So I'm going to head over to Configuration, scroll down under the Development section and find Performance. In here, I could either clear all caches one time, but then caching is still enabled, or I can go down to the Bandwidth Optimization section and disable the aggregation of CSS files and JavaScript files. I'll save this configuration. Again, this is only something that you want to do in your development environment, not your production environment. Your production environment should always have caching enabled unless you have a really good reason to disable it, which will only be the case if you are a very advanced Drupal developer and probably have some other form of caching going on your site. So now that we've done this and we're not doing any caching anymore, we can go back to our site and we will see the changes that we made. I'm going to reload. And there you go. The text is a dark black now, so that's higher contrast, which is better for accessibility. And we have this pink background on either side, which gives us a slightly more vibrant experience. Possibly a far less professional one, but a more vibrant one. We can head over to the mobile version and reload that and see how the changes affect this particular version. It's not using that body background, so the only change here is that the text is now black instead of that dark gray color. I want to go back to the default theme that came with Drupal out of the box, Bardic. I'm going to click on Appearance, and under my list of themes, I'm going to change the default theme to Bardic by clicking Set as Default next to Bardic. Now I'll go back to the site, and we see that original theme that we've been working with throughout the entire course. Bardic uses a module that is called Color, which is enabled out of the box in your Drupal install. This module allows you, under Appearance and Settings for your theme, let's go to the Bardic theme, to dynamically change the color of your theme. So we started out with this blue color scheme, but we can go ahead and change that very easily. So I'm clicking in the header background top. If I want to change that to a nice golden color, food is golden, right? We use something kind of bright here. And this is a gradient, so we need both the top and the bottom of the gradient. And then perhaps I also want to change the link color. Maybe I want something that's a dark red. Not too dark because we want those links to stand out. I'm going to scroll down here and you can actually see a preview of how these changes look on the site. I may also want to change the footer background color here to be a little bit more dramatic. Let's change it to something in the dark brown spectrum. See how that looks. And now we can go ahead and save those changes. So I'm going to click Save Configuration at the bottom of this page. And if we go back to our site, you can see these changes take effect immediately. In this lesson, we looked at how we can customize the look and feel of a site using a contributed theme. For true customization, you will need to either use a base theme or create a custom theme.